all these entities that rely on funding to exist. So that's why there's a benefit to society. Hello and welcome to another week, 50 weeks of marketing. This week's topic, we're going to talk about sponsorship. Sponsorship is a business relationship between two parties. The first party provides support and value to the other party in terms of funding, support, or services in return for an affiliation or partnership from the other party. One party is the sponsor. They give money, services, expertise to the other party who needs that to survive. That second party, the beneficiary of the sponsorship, provides an affiliation to the sponsor, which gives them rights or an association which they can then leverage in their marketing communications. And what makes sponsorship different to advertising is there's two parties involved. So the sponsor and then the other party receiving the funding. And there's a general benefit to society through that sponsorship, as the party receiving the funding or other sponsorship, they probably can't exist, or they can't exist to a level which benefits society as much as it currently does through the funding. And that benefit to society, such as a sports club, not-for-profit groups, all these entities that rely on funding to exist. So that's why there's a benefit to society. I get to go play badminton at the local badminton club, for example, who might rely on sponsorship in order to keep the facilities up and running and things like that. Sports clubs can be on two tiers, like your local club who relies on it just to exist. So I can go to my local cricket club and play cricket, or badminton example I just used. But then also professional clubs, they have other income streams such as TV rights, which amateur clubs may not have access to, but it's very expensive to run a professional sports team. I've got Chiefs, Waikato Chiefs, my local professional rugby club, who I support. You can see it's got sponsor Adidas. Adidas give a whole heap of money to New Zealand Rugby in order for all the professional teams to be wearing Adidas, because it puts Adidas out there on TV, makes them really credible to be affiliated to New Zealand rugby teams. You can also see BNZ. BNZ was the major sponsor of the New Zealand professional sports team in a competition called Super Rugby. And you can still see it, it's faded, but Investec, another sort of banking organisation, they were the sponsor of the whole competition, which also include teams from South Africa and Australia. So it's exposure in all these different marketplaces. But along with these sports team sponsorships, it's also individuals can be sponsored. Tiger Woods, famously sponsored by Nike, Michael Jordan, LeBron James. A lot of these athletes are sponsored by sports clothing brands, sports shoe brands, Adidas, Nike, and that's because there's an obvious fit. Sports clothing sponsoring a sports club, it makes sense, which we'll sort of get into shortly. There's also influencers who we see on social media, those influencer posts saying, I love this product, use it all the time, blah, blah, blah. That's sponsored content. The sponsor pays that person either in money or free product to put that in their social media posts to go out to their audience. It's again those two parties, when one party is leveraging the other party's audience in order to put that out there. We've also got events, festivals, the arts, local productions at the ballet or acting stuff. It's not really my thing, but that the arts can be commonly sponsored to help, fund those types of things. Not-for-profit groups, obviously, they rely on all sorts of funding. Sponsorship is one of those. Community groups in that same category. Stadiums, often stadiums are named after a brand. Spark Arena in Auckland, which used to be Vector Arena, big indoor stadium where we have concerts and basketball games and things. So that's sponsored with naming rights, and also with buildings. Often in big cities you see big tall skyscrapers with the logo of a bank at the top of the buildings. The bank doesn't own that building. It's not the headquarters for the bank. They may have a couple of floors in that building. They pay a whole heap of money in order to have their branding on that building. So they're sponsoring that building. So the benefits of sponsorship. Firstly, I just want to mention the fit thing I mentioned. So there has to be a good fit between the sponsor and the entity being sponsored. I mentioned sports teams commonly sponsored by sports equipment, sports clothing, so it's a good obvious fit. And that increases credibility of the sponsor if there is a good fit. Same with racing cars. Often racing cars are sponsored by tyre brands or performance car brands who do performance upgrades to cars and things like that, or other brands which fit in that demographic of people who follow motorsport. So bourbon and whiskey companies, Jim Beam and stuff like that, are often on race cars. The demographic of people who consume whiskey and that type of beverage typically would fit the demographic of people interested in racing and watching racing. If there's no fit, the benefit's not going to be as strong. People are going to be quite wary of that sponsor. Why are they even sponsoring it? And then it seems commercial. The great thing about sponsorship is that it provides goodwill. You're doing something good for society. Oh, that brand's cool. They sponsor my local sports team. They're a good company. So that that goodwill rubs off onto the brand of the sponsor. If there's no obvious fit, consumers of that entity being sponsored are going to be a little bit wary of that sponsor. Why are they sponsoring? That's not something I'd ever buy. So it needs to be a great fit in order to maximise the effect of sponsorship. And along with that goodwill effect, enhancing relations, public relations. General public thinks more of big organisations that sponsor things. That's why banks often sponsor sports competitions or other things that give value to society. So people don't like banks too much. So if some of that goodwill from sponsorship rubs off on the bank, they're more likely to pick up some of those customers. But as well as enhancing relations with the general public for having that community mindedness, can also enhance relationship with clients. Say if you're in the B2B space, I'm a sponsor of the Chiefs, that sponsorship might entitle me to a corporate box at the stadium where that sports team plays. Then I can enhance relations with clients and potential clients through inviting them along to a match. So we're building a relationship. That's another way that sponsorship gives benefit to the sponsors. It increases brand awareness with your target market. Again, going back to that fit thing and making sure our target market, who the people we want, who are likely to be our customers, match with the target audience of a certain sport or the consumers that go to a certain event. Assuming there's that fit, we increase our brand awareness so people know we exist, who we want to be our customers. Brand image, which aligns with that. The people make associations to a brand, which then makes the brand image. So the brand image is subjective to each person. My perception of what a brand stands for. So these associations which start to be built up to a brand, if we associate it to being a sponsor to our favourite sports team, we're starting to build positive, favourable associations to that brand. So their brand image becomes more positive. Theoretically, the better the brand image, the more positive it is, the more likely I am to become their customer. Just finally, there's two main types of sponsorship. First is a financial or cash sponsor, which sounds like literally what it is. They give money to this party they're sponsoring to help them run their competition, fund their sports team, fund their non-for-profit organisation, whatever it is, it's the funding aspect. And on the other side to that is an in-kind sponsorship. So in-kind sponsorship, we're not giving them money, but we're giving them resources, or we're giving them expertise. We're providing services to help them maximize the effectiveness of what they do. So for a sports team, as well as Adidas giving money to the All Blacks and New Zealand Rugby, they're providing the clothing. So New Zealand Rugby doesn't have to purchase any uniforms. They're all supplied by the sponsor Adidas. For an event, the venue might be a sponsor. So the venue provide their facilities for free. I run an event called LinkedIn Local Hamilton, which my venues are all for free. They give me the venue because I promote the venue in my events marketing. So more people are exposed to that venue, which is the value for them. They don't have to give me any money, they just give me the venue. Then on the other side of that, I look for cash sponsors to help pay for the event to be run. There's free food and alcohol at the event, so it's free to attend. So in order to put this event on, I need money to pay. Sometimes I get an alcohol or beverage sponsor who brings in the beverages and becomes an event sponsor instead of giving me money. But most of the time I get money and I can put on the event. As well as, uniforms and stuff for sports, there's other equipment that might help you run your organisation. Might be computers being sponsored to help run something. Down at your local sports club, all the equipment that helps you play that particular sport, like the goalposts, the court being upgraded, equipment to help practice, that could be donated, sponsored from a local organisation. And media for big events where we want to put out lots of PR and promotion and things like that to help get more people to the event, get more exposure for the event. Might be a media sponsor who does all that stuff for us in order to be listed as a sponsor for the event. And the final one I've put here, food. So at a networking event or some other type of event, there might be free food available to people. So that could be a sponsorship of just giving food to be listed as a sponsor. And that's it for this week's topic on sponsorship. We'll be back next week for another week. Thanks for watching.